Wonderful. Well, we are live. Everybody, welcome officially to Nonprofit Expert Week. I'm so excited to have y'all here. Nice to meet you. Welcome. I'm Tamara W. I'm the founder of Leading for Good, and I'm also the author of the book by the same name, Leading for Good, which releases this Saturday. Tonight is kicking off the first of many conversations that we're going to have with four experts this week as we count down to the release of my book this Saturday. So I designed this series specifically to give nonprofit leaders the insights they need to be able to strengthen the key areas that are directly impacting their organization. So specifically this week, we'll be looking at branding, bookkeeping, grant writing, and data. Tonight, we are starting with branding, and I'm joined by the amazing Lisa Noble, who brings incredible expertise in this area. Lisa Noble is the founder of Vivid Visual Solutions, helping women led and mission driven nonprofits build brands that reflect their values and attract the right supporters. A breast cancer survivor, Lisa knows firsthand the power of nonprofits and uses her branding and marketing expertise to help them share their stories, connect with donors, and grow their impact. With a background in corporate website design, she
Mhm.
shifted her focus to nonprofits, recognizing how many struggle with visibility and donor engagement.
Mhm.
Now, she specializes in strategic branding and messaging that builds trust, deepens donor relationships, and helps grassroots organizations create a big impact on a budget. And with that experience, I already know Lisa is going to bring so much value to this conversation. Welcome, Lisa. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. Um, I I thought about branding to kick off this conversation because I actually think branding is one of the last things nonprofits think about.
Mhm.
I can think about my own experience as an executive director, and I think about some of my clients that I work with, some of my executive directors that I coach one on one. And when I talk about branding, the first thing that they say is, oh, when we make a certain amount of money, or once we get a bigger budget, then we'll think about branding. And a lot of organizations don't even realize branding is important on day one.
Mhm.
Whether or not you're intentional about it is up to you,
Mhm.
but you have a brand, and
Yes.
whether you're building it the right way or not, that's on you. But you can't. A lot of people think, we have to have, $300,000, half a million, $1 million before we think about branding.
Mhm.
When if you don't have it, then when you actually do start to get the money, you won't have a brand that sustains that. So
Right.
I'd love if you just give us an intro into who you are and share a little bit about what led to your work with nonprofit organizations.
So I'm Lisa Noble. I am an executive brand artisan. And what that means is it's not only like websites that we look at, it's not only your social media. We're looking at every visual, the values of everything, the personas that you use, the people, the donors that you're going after. And how I really got started, like you said, I started off doing corporate websites. I've been part of teams, been part of different agencies. And when I started my own, it was important that small business owners, get out there and get their brands together. But once I became a breast cancer survivor, that's when I really interacted with nonprofits. There were some that came in and blessed me. The reason why I still had my hair was because of one that was called Cap and Conquer, and my community did not know about that. Right? When you go through chemo, a lot of times you lose your hair. It's a very emotional thing, and it was something that I really didn't want to go through, but I thought I was going to have to go through it. And the only reason why I found out about this nonprofit organization that's doing wonderful, wonderful work was because of my doctor. And they really hadn't worked with any Black women or Black
Wow.
people. Right. So I was like kind of like their test case. They had me do
Yeah.
videos on even how I wash my hair. Um, and I was able to keep my hair because of just this nonprofit. And I had to, it was not covered by my insurance. And they had a wonderful scholarship that made it affordable. And my family blessed me with the 6 treatments while doing chemo. And that just made me understand that I could do more and I could really help my community in helping organizations like this get the word out because they struggle with it, right? Or they just don't recognize that this is a demographic that they can even go for. And that's part of my job, doing the research, finding different groups for them to help, as well as finding donors that will be a blessing like somebody was to me and help me to get to use that service. So it really made it very important to me to use my talents that I had, I already had through my education, as well as working with these corporate clients, to help these organizations.
That is a beautiful story. And I'm a woman of faith and I'm a believer of things working out for our good in the end. And I think your story is just an example of something that I'm sure if you could go back over, you wouldn't have picked that journey.
Oh,
But it is amazing to see
yeah.
how you have taken something and transformed it into a way to kind of pay it forward. Like, I went through something rough and this organization helped me. And now that blessing for you is turning into so many, you being able to impact so many other organizations and help them, as you said, like in a way that they need it. Because I can't imagine how many other women battling cancer, which is a whole journey in itself. It's a whole process, the
Mm,
emotional, mental, and physical impacts of it. And
yeah.
then going through the hair loss, how many of them probably wish they knew about an organization like that or wish that they had the resources? Because sometimes it's not even the knowing, it's you're overwhelmed and inundated with a lot
Oh,
happening at once that
so much.
you can't even navigate. And so sometimes we literally need things dropped in our lap to be like, here it is,
Yeah.
what you need, here's what you should do. And I think branding
Uh-huh.
really allows organizations to pop up and show up in front of the audiences that can best receive what they're offering and best benefit from their services.
Yeah, it really gave me my strength back. It gave me something I could control. Everything else was out of my control. This gave
Yeah.
dignity. I was still able to work without people asking me what's wrong or talking about me. What's wrong with Lisa? She, now she's bald, or making assumptions, or those type of things. It really was a true blessing, and I'm just I'm happy to give back in some form of fashion, and using my talents is I'm excited to do that.
And speaking of using your talents, you have experience in both for profit and corporate settings
Yeah.
and nonprofit. And so, and you've gotten at it a little bit with tapping into the right audience, making sure people are aware of the organization. But is there any other thing you would add as to why branding is important for nonprofits? And then what differs the
Mhm.
branding approach maybe for a corporate entity versus a nonprofit organization?
So, what's really important about branding is that there's so many nonprofits out there that are doing the same thing or similar things.
Yeah.
So, in order to really stand out, you have to be professional about it. Everything has to be consistent. If I go to this website and then I go to your social media, I need to be able to see that there is the same kind of messaging, there's the same kind of professional look and feel. Like, the logo is one part of it, but of course it's not the whole thing. And then getting into your messaging, your storytelling, um, that is what we really work hard with nonprofits on, is the storytelling piece. But
Yes.
it's like both corporate and nonprofits, they're both a business. When it comes
Right.
down to it, it starts off the same way. We do research on the demographics. It's just that on nonprofits, we're looking more towards donors. We're looking more towards sponsors. It's just more about the audience that could be different, and then the tactics of the way to get funding. But it's all about getting somebody to that website and clicking the button to donate.
Yes.
And so that's why I was like, this is something that is definitely in my wheelhouse, because it all starts off the same way. We're looking at different personas and we're trying to figure out what's the motivation as far as for nonprofits? And then how can we take the data that I know you all have on your desk?
Yes, there's yes,
It,
the data.
it's coming out of your ears, your volunteers have it, your staff have it. How can you use that information to tell a story that really resonates? So it's just what's we're using more of the mission and the values when it comes to nonprofits, but really it's the same kind of um, process that we do in order to figure out, okay, who's our person that we're trying to get to take action. It's just a client for them, or a customer for them, whereas it's a donor or a sponsor or a volunteer for nonprofits.
Love it. And I have a whole chapter in my book specifically talking about storytelling because when
Mm-hmm.
I started, I the organization that I was leading at the time was about 15 years old and was a grassroots organization created by people in the community, but it would blow my mind that I would be out places and time after time people would say, "Oh, we had no idea you existed," or "I didn't know you were here." And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, we were literally found, we're not even like a plant, like we didn't even come from somewhere else. We
Mm-hmm.
were founded by actual people in this community, and nobody knows that we're here. And we
Mm-hmm.
worked in education, so it was even more shocking when I would meet educators or principals or
Mm-hmm.
district leaders and they would say, "I've never heard of your organization, what do you do?" Or "I didn't know you were here." And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking, we're doing all this good work
Mm-hmm.
and
Wonderful work. And no,
nobody knows about it. We know about it,
yeah.
and I'm trying to figure out how do I get it out to people so that they know about it. Because, like you said, in the same way that corporate entities are trying to reach their customer, we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to reach our donors, we're trying to reach volunteers, we're trying to reach potential board members,
Yeah.
and branding is what is going to encompass that.
Yeah.
And so for you, you talked about, the importance of having that social media and that site be connected, like symmetry
Mm-hmm.
across the different elements. So for you, when you think about what an effective nonprofit brand looks like, what are the core elements of that? What should a brand have to really be able to tell that story?
So yeah, the first of all, let's start with market research. Okay. So the branding piece, that's part of your branding. You need to research who you're trying to go for, that donor. What are their trigger points? We need to see what kind of emotional triggers make them say, oh my goodness, I align with this. This is something that I can get behind. This is a cause that I really want to put my money into. So, first and foremost, you have to have the brand elements. Yes, it needs to look really good. A visual identity looks really good, and have it consistent across all your platforms, as well as when you're doing your galas and when you're doing your fundraising, having those branded elements available and ready to use, and how you're doing your emails. But working on the story, once you know what the motivations are and how you can possibly talk to them, and then making sure that the representative of the story, we always have to have that main character,
Always.
makes sense, it aligns with what your mission is, right? So having those type of pieces together, and of course getting out there, grant, everybody knows how to fundraise. I'm not telling you guys how to do that, but making sure that when you go live like this, like your colors, everything is matching across the board and cohesive, as well as making sure that you're connecting with the audience. Like when you tell the story, it's something that they really want to hear about and something that they can connect with. And then using that story over and over again, kind of like don't switch it up and be like, okay, over here, we're talking about this. Over here, we're talking about that. You don't want to confuse your audience, right? All that is so important. And then having, yes, the marketing tactics of, it could be Facebook ads, it could be your social media channels. But when they go from the social media back to the website, then you still have to have a good landing page that
Yes.
makes sense with what you put out there on social media. Because if I come to your website and it's busted, And then I'm like, I'm confused. What
You're
you want
right.
me to do? That's another thing. Call to actions. Make sure that they understand exactly what's the next steps. Like donate now. Go to our site. Join our email list. You know, register now, or and then when they get there to that page, make sure it's not all these things popping up. That's the worst thing you can do. The first time I come to the website, if you've got that that email box that comes
Yes.
in or whatever to say, go here and you switch
Sign
and
up for the newsletter.
sign up for the newsletter. But I came for the donation. I came to donate.
Mm,
I got money
yeah.
in hand,
Yeah.
and then I get to your website and you throwing me somewhere else. So
Yeah.
let's be really strategic about what they see when they get to the website so that they're not thrown. And be very good about your call to actions.
You make a really good point. I was meeting with a nonprofit executive director a few weeks ago around fundraising strategy and goals. And one of the things I shared with this person was, you're doing a lot of good work, but I don't even know if people know you're a nonprofit. Like,
Mm,
I think people think you run a fun group, like you have a group that's doing this great thing, but I
mhm.
don't know that people actually assume that y'all are a nonprofit entity that needs donations to
Yeah.
be able to do the work. And I said, so
Mm,
almost every time you're posting on social, like, yes, you're posting, we have this event, community come out and join us. We want to see y'all.
yeah.
And then maybe a few times a year, you're around bigger events, you'll say, oh, donate. But
Uh-huh.
if you're trying to raise money, almost everything you post needs to come back to the fact that here's the story,
Mhm.
here's what we're doing,
Mhm.
here's our impact, here's how you can be a part of that and jump in and
Exactly.
support. And I think a lot of times we get afraid of making the ask. We want to be soft about it. We want to,
Yeah.
oh, here's all these great photos, or here's the work, but, like, we'll ask for the gift later, or we'll
Yes.
ask for the donation later. And Walmart is never afraid to sell you
How
whatever
many
they want
emails
to
do
sell.
they send you? Come
These
on
brands
now.
are not shy about it. Black Friday,
Uh-huh.
they are not ashamed that they emailed you 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before, every day the week leading up to it,
On the
7 times
day.
on the day of.
They might send you out 5 emails a day. So we need to have that same kind of gumption for our own nonprofits, because what you're doing is important. So people want to know, and everybody is not opening that email. Everybody
Right,
is not opening that social media post and actually reading it. But you have to make it so it's compelling enough that they engage with it. So change it up. You can have the same story, but have use just a image. Then you could do the same story in a video, put an audio over some kind of a
yeah,
carousel, but use the same thing over and over again so that you're not like spinning your wheels and having your team creating all these posts and things and doing this, creating a story over and over again, because that's the way you feel like, gosh, I'm doing so much work and nothing's coming out of it. But yes, you have to have, like I said, the messaging has to make sense. And
it
you need to
does.
talk about it. Brag about yourself, brag about the nonprofit. And there's ways to do that in your storytelling that doesn't come off like salesy. It comes off, this is what we do for our beneficiaries. This is
And I
how.
think consistency, to what you shared about taking the same story, but using different methods, sharing it in different ways.
Mhm,
A lot of times, and I know this both as a small business owner and somebody who has worked in the nonprofit space, if you're when you are doing it, and especially if you're in a smaller nonprofit, you might find yourself being the marketing person, the fundraiser, the
yeah,
head custodian,
yep.
the lunch person. Like, you are doing all of it, and it can easily feel like I'm posting and sharing and nobody is listening, or I made 10 posts last week and not one person donated. And what
Mhm,
I always try to remind people is you have to be consistent
mhm,
even when you have these down periods or things are not happening, because what I have seen happen a lot, especially with my clients, is the
mhm,
consistency is there. So when people are ready to give, your brand is the first one that is popping up. Your organization is the first one that's popping up. And a
mhm,
lot of times, like I shared at the beginning, we want to wait until the flood comes and then say, well, let me hurry up and get something together now
Yeah,
that we have it, not realizing a lot of times, especially larger donors, when they come, when they're ready to give, which is usually not on a rolling basis, they kind of sit down and have set times of year when they give.
right.
They're looking at your branding. They're looking, and they might go to Google and type in top organizations for this cause or that cause. And
Yeah,
so you might think nobody's paying attention, but
right,
they're going back to say, like, what have you done over the past 3 months?
right.
What is your social media looking like? So that post you did 3 months ago that you thought
Mhm.
that was a waste of time,
Yeah.
nobody saw that, is building your credibility so that when people are ready to give, you have the branding to back it up.
Exactly. And that's why SEO is so important as well. Like you said, they're going to do those Google searches. And if you don't have your website optimized with the right keywords to say you're a nonprofit and to really, that's your billboard 24/7. That's where you can put the information that's needed to say, this is what we're about. This is who we are. And these are the people that we help. And that's where all the information and transparency can go in as well. That's important for a nonprofit. Even when things are good, things are bad, you still want to be very transparent because that creates trust. We were talking
Yes.
about building trust, and it establishes your reputation. It's very important to be consistent, have your website on point and optimized for SEO, as well as having your social media where the where people are that you want to try to get to be donors or sponsors or whatever. So it's very important to have your consistent messaging.
So you've talked a little bit about market research,
Mhm.
knowing your audience. You've mentioned logo, website, storytelling. Is there anything else you can think of that a nonprofit can do to really get a grasp on how their brand is resonating? Because typically, if you're leading a nonprofit, you're trying to connect with your community, connect with potential beneficiaries, and then connect with donors.
Yeah.
So, from in your experience, based on what you've seen, if a nonprofit is saying, how do we know if what we're doing resonates? Is it working?
Hmm.
What are some things that they can do?
You can ask people the question. Ask your donors the question of what would they like to see,
Mm.
or are we putting out what you want to see? Same thing with sponsors or your volunteers probably the easiest group to ask questions of. But yeah, that's part of the market research process too. If you want to survey your audience, poll your audience, ask them questions on social media. you know um, Sometimes you can even say, ask a question about who you are, right? Or when you do your different events, what something that we helped with one client was they wanted to do something virtual, so they did virtual bingo. But what it was like, it's not just the normal bingo, it was kind of educating their audience along the way
Ah,
in
nice.
order to play the game. So you're letting them know, okay, this is what we're about, and putting some little educational tidbits about your organization. There's so many ways to be creative and get the word out that is not the same as what everybody else is doing. This also helps you to stand out. It's not just always have to be the galas and the regular ways that you fundraise. There are other ways that you can sell tickets and gain money as well as educate your audience.
I really appreciate your notion of asking people the question because I think we can overcomplicate things.
Mhm.
And I think we can be quick to one, look at what everybody else is doing and say, well, I saw they're hosting an event. We need to do one like that. Or I
Mhm.
saw that they just updated their website colors. We're going to do the same thing.
Mhm.
Or we can go to Google or read all the books, and all of those things are good. But also, you can literally just ask. And I think
Mhm.
that's a really good place to start because people might feel like, again, we're limited on resources. We don't have the funds. Maybe I don't even have time to put into it. But have you actually sat down with your volunteers and just asked
Mhm.
about your brand? And I know even in my own experience, what has been helpful is reminding people that yes, your donors are people who give money and you need the money to be able to run the organization, but
Mhm,
they also are people who can give you feedback
mm,
on questions that you have. So, yes,
mhm,
appreciate them for the gift, but ask about your website, ask
mhm,
about their impressions, ask about how they feel about, what your social media is looking like and what feedback they have. That can be a really
mhm.
easy way to get some initial thoughts because I know even when I was leading, it was donors that were saying like it's actually hard to kind of donate. Like the button
Yeah.
is kind of wonky on my phone. It shows up better on the desktop, but I was out at an event when I wanted to give. And
Mhm,
that for me was like, if somebody
mhm.
wants to give money, I don't want to make it difficult. I want
Don't make it
to be able to
difficult.
click
Thank
that button and give me all the money.
Make it big, put it at the beginning of the page. Don't hide it all the way down at the bottom because sometimes we're just scanning. We are not reading that whole page, even though you think it's beautiful, and it probably is a very beautiful landing page. A lot of times people have come from your social media and they just want to get in fast, make that donate button big and at the top of the page. The very first thing. You are right. I'm glad you brought that up. That is usually something that I say, and it hadn't come to me yet. It would have come to me because that's something. Make that page very easy to maneuver. Have videos and all that good stuff. But yeah, the donate button is very important, and it needs to be a contrasting color from the
Yes.
rest of the page so it stands out. Donate now. Don't
Don't
make
let it blend in with all the other text on the page.
yeah, don't have a whole lot of text. It's like, but yes, very much so. As well as you can use your email list, right? We've got all these people on in our CRMs. Let's ask them some questions. They gave you their email. They are there as a good research um, community.
They are. And I think a lot of times we miss out on valuable feedback. And to no slight, again, lots of nonprofit leaders are doing so much that, again, these ideas don't always come to you. You're too busy doing the work and handling
That's
things. But
why my team is we exist because yeah, we're there to kind of help keep things top of mind.
and it's you miss out on being able to get that feedback from people who have given you money
Hmm.
and have given you their email. They've shown some level of investment. So it's not like you just randomly found them somewhere and
Right.
started reaching out. So it
Yeah.
is a good way. And I've also seen in my experience where people feel more included in the work you're doing when you ask them for this feedback. So there were times where I was a little leery or
Hmm.
felt like I don't want to bring this up. And when I asked, people kind of said like, "Thank you for actually involving me. It feels like you care about what I think and you want me to be a part of the work." And so
Yeah.
another great way when you're thinking about fundraising and building relationships is by bringing those people into the process.
Yeah. And being donating to your nonprofit or giving their email, they want to be a part of something bigger, right? That's why they decided to donate to your cause. They want to be a part of it and they want to brag on it as like your ambassador. So the more information that you give to them to go out here and basically market for you, the better. Let's use them as part of our team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know some of y'all are popping in. Feel free to drop questions in the comments. I got a couple more for Lisa, and then we'll jump into any audience questions. So feel
Okay.
free to drop your questions in the chat if you have them. Lisa, from what you've seen, is there a nonprofit that comes to mind that has a strong and memorable brand, like either one you've worked with or one that in your life has shown up in your journey where you've thought, man, that brand is actually like it's stuck with me over the years? Is there one that comes to mind for you?
St. John's
Okay.
Children's Hospital. Watching their commercials, they get it.
Yes.
They have storytelling down to a science, as well as the visuals. They're showing you the children that they're helping. So you have it's no way that you don't know what they're doing, right? And then they're telling the story. They're really saying, we help children, only children. They're telling you that they need your donation now. in order to help these children actually go through this journey of cancer. It's very specific. It's very emotional. Every time I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, I have to, it's like, it's
It
something
makes
that
you want to do something.
makes you want to do something. You really want to help these families. They tell their story really, really well. That is definitely one that I would watch. And that every time the commercial it comes on, I know exactly they have it down to the music that they use. Right, you see their logo, and the visuals that they're used, they are always the same, as well as they have branded their music. When the commercial comes on, I know it's them.
I love that. Yeah, I think when I think about storytelling too, you brought up the emotional connection, and I think that part of the brand as well is understanding, especially as a nonprofit, your branding, your storytelling should make people want to act and do something, whether that is buy a ticket to the gala,
Mm-hmm.
volunteer, donate, whatever it is. You
Yeah.
want people after they engage with your brand to feel like, I want to do something. Let me know
Yes.
where I can sign up, because
Right.
they are,
Right
that
now.
call to action is strong so that they are like, today,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do?
Yeah, and like you said, have the mobile up to par. It's got to look good on desktop, but for the most part, people are using their phones now. So make sure
Yeah.
it's very easy for them to do on their phones. But yeah, St. John, they are also using testimonials really well. They have the parents giving their, and that's great, user input that can be used on your social media channels or whatever. They're using testimonials of the children that are actually sick, as well as their parents, and they are being advocates and ambassadors for the brand.
10 out of 10. I would echo all of what you said. And I think too, even when I think about nonprofits on a more local level
Hmm.
that have inspired me, it is the nonprofits that tell this story, that not only shares about the impact, but it places me as the viewer or the
Hmm.
audience
Hmm.
into the story or into the journey. So it's like you tell this heart wrenching story, whether that is we're helping kids,
Hmm.
improve literacy rates. We give books to children that don't have access to
Yeah.
books, or we are providing after school support for kids who need somewhere to be that's safe after school, or we are helping moms with postpartum care who are dealing with mental health
Hmm.
struggles, or we are helping aging adults
Yeah.
have a quality care of life, whatever it is. They have this strong mission, and then they kind of take you, the viewer, and put you in it around like, did this touch you?
Uh-huh.
Great, here you go.
Yes, and that's the important thing. That is the most important thing. You have to make the viewer, the donor, feel like, if I come in, this is a way that I can actually help. This is how I can do something on a broader scale. And that's what donor centered posts and social media storytelling is really all about. It's bringing them into the story and saying, donors like you, before they may have even donated, donors like you can give this child a better life
Yeah.
just by donating your dollars.
So last question from me before we jump into, I think we have one audience question so far. If y'all have other questions, feel free to drop them. We have say you have a nonprofit. They just started 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
$3 in the bank. And they're like, Lisa, we don't even know if we can afford Wix or Squarespace. Like, we don't even know if we have money for that. The
Mm-hmm.
idea of branding just seems out of reach and impossible.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a budget. We don't know what we're working with. If I say money to my board, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy. What are some low cost things they could do to enhance their branding?
Well, social media is free. Post,
Yeah.
post about what you're doing. Tell about your brand. Um, give insight into what you've done and how your nonprofit helps. Talk about it. Take video with your phone. Make sure that you put it out there. We're all on social media all the time. post. It doesn't have to look beautiful, it doesn't have to look wonderful. Tell people about the organization. Do something every single day on social media and be consistent.
I love
That's
that.
that's
I
cheap.
love that.
It's cheap.
It is. And I think again, to your point, branding, yes, I think it does involve the logo and the colors and the website and all of that.
Hmm.
But that should never prevent you from saying, well, until we get that,
Hmm.
we're just not going to do anything. We're going to sit back and wait for the money to come in. So
Right.
I agree. Like using that phone, taking photos,
Hmm.
recording videos, getting video content. I always tell people it's so easy to overthink videos
Hmm.
and think, oh, well, I got to make sure I have a fancy camera and the lighting has to look this way and I got to do this. You
Hmm.
can record quick 30-second clips from the people you're supporting. You can get feedback if you're working with students. Can you
Right.
get feedback from their parents? Like
Yeah.
it can be really quick. You can get quotes, all of that,
Well,
and share that out.
or even like if you're putting together like little care packages, film that process of
Yes.
you putting things into the box, things going into the box so people can see what you're giving, what their donation would what you would put together and that they could trust you to do with their donation. That's really what it's showing. um yeah, just be diligent about doing it every single day and being consistent, being on social media. When you think about advertising, how much it used to cost when we had to get billboards and we had these big advertising companies. Now you can use social media pretty much for free. you know
Yeah.
Now there are limitations of how far it goes because it's a business. They want you to spend money on ads. But if you create a big enough audience, there will be some people that will see it. It's just figuring out for your donors, for your sponsors, and for your volunteers, where do they hang out? Are they on LinkedIn? If they're on LinkedIn, then focus all your efforts on LinkedIn. If they're on Facebook, LinkedIn is more of a business oriented, whereas
Yeah.
Facebook, yeah, everybody's on Facebook, but you just have to be able to hone in on who your audience is. It takes time, but you got time. Or you can get companies like myself to help you with that. And we have the Flaunt Your Fundraiser that has like we giving you free, we not free, but we're giving you posts that you can put out there. So like a 31-day checklist and things like that. So um those are other resources that you can use as well.
Wonderful. Okay, so our first question coming in, and it says, as a new nonprofit, at what point should we shift the focus from strategic and implementation planning to branding? I have a thought on this, but Lisa, you're the expert, so I'll let you answer first.
Well, branding should come first, but if you are just really starting out the gate, then yes, for sure, do the strategic planning. And when you have the money, or I mean, there's Canva. I don't use Canva, of course, because I've been using Photoshop and all those things, but I see it as a real benefit to people just getting started. You can go in there, you can create something that hopefully doesn't look just like everybody else, uh, but a lot of branding is being consistent about the way things look and feel.
Yeah.
Like even when you're creating those videos, do them in the same way all the time. When you think of like I don't know, most of us watch TikTok. There's Keith Lee. And it's like, how does he start off his video? He starts it off in the same way. It's not, hey,
Yeah.
y'all, it's I can't think of it right now. But if you watch it, it's always the
Consistent
same.
every time.
Right. Having a consistent saying when you come on, that's branding. Consistent music, like if you come on live, um, just be consistent and do things the same way over and over again. People start to pay attention and it becomes your signature.
I love that. And to your point, I was literally thinking, uh, when I think about branding, I think about just consistently showing up. Like that's what comes to mind. And so branding is in even some of the small things. And hopefully, those of you watching now and then watching the replay,
Mhm.
this has kind of demystified branding for you and kind of broken it down into smaller chunks,
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to be this really big thing where everybody doesn't have to be Nike or Apple with these
Mhm.
hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, understandably so. Branding a lot of times is inconsistency. It is as simple as when
Mhm.
we start a video, we start it the same way. When we welcome people to an event, we do it the same way.
Yes.
Every Tuesday, we do a thing. Like,
Right.
that's what Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, come back here because we're going to post this or do something.
Mhm.
But
And
consistently showing up.
yeah, and then there are things that as a brand strategist I see with color and all that stuff. But when you're just getting started, just make sure you're using the same colors over and over again. Don't be like, today I'm gonna be using red, and then tomorrow
The
I'm
whole colors of the rainbow, all of them.
yeah, all the colors of the rainbow. Or and a lot of times with branding, I get people who are like, well, my favorite color is purple. Purple is a good color, but the real thing is it going to resonate with your donors? So once you start working with someone like me, those are the things that my team and I really look at. We get all in your business and find out about what your values are, how you want to show up, and those type of things. But if you're just starting out, just do like two or three colors. Don't use every color of the rainbow, and don't switch it up every time you come on. You have a different color. Even like us, we're sitting here, we have our backgrounds. When people see me, they know they're going to see the girl in the pink and the blue. These are my brand colors right here. All of these, the orange, the green. And Tamara, you have a background that you sit in front of all the time, right?
Yeah,
That's part of your branding now. So you have to even be conscious of what's going on behind you when
yeah.
you come on live and things like that. So hopefully I answered the question. I think I did.
I think you did. And the next one kind of aligns with this. And if you want to add anything to it, feel free. But it just says, what do you suggest new nonprofits do when they haven't launched yet? But what can they do to help with their branding? So I guess similar to my question earlier, they're brand new, fresh out the gate. Maybe they haven't even kind of introduced themselves.
Mhm.
What's something that they can do when it comes to branding?
Um, Introduce yourself. And like I said, I think it's kind of the same thing. Use Canva if you don't have the funds to come up with like a professional brand, and then later on you can switch it up and really come up with or work with somebody like me once you have the funds and your audience. I think a lot of it when you're starting out, you're getting to know your donors, you're getting to know the motivations and all that. Start really posting and paying attention to what they're liking, um, because they'll give you cues, and really track the things that are working well and the things that are not. So what do they say? They say fail fast. If you
Yeah,
find that there's something that they're really not resonating with, don't do that anymore. Try something else. Switch it up. And yeah, just keep doing the things that they really like to do and engage with.
I love it. I think that's a great point to wrap up on.
Yeah.
Lisa, if people are now feeling super excited, super enthusiastic, they want to work with you, they want to talk branding, how can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at Vivid Visual Solutions, and that is VIVID visual, because we're highly visual. VISUAL Solutions, SOLUTIONS, on most channels. Or you can find me, Lisa Noble, Lisa M. Noble, on the different social media channels. Yeah, that's me. So just connect with me. Usually, it's one word, Vivid Visual Solutions. Or if you want to make it have an appointment with me, it is Meet with Lisa Noble, and
Got it.
yeah, .com, so that we can Yeah, we can chit chat and talk about it because I do have some options for helping out, and to really get you going. We have the Flaunt Your Fundraiser, which has different tiers of options on ways to help you get started and help you be consistent with your posting and your storytelling.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being a part of our Leading for Good Expert Week. Thank you all for tuning in on a Monday evening.
Thank
As
you.
I shared to kick off this week, I will be live Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday with a different expert, specifically leading up to the release of my book, Leading for Good, specifically geared towards new executive directors to
Mhm.
give them a blueprint for not just leading, but also sustaining their nonprofit. And tonight's conversation was right on topic because I think
Awesome.
my chapter 8 is specifically around storytelling. So, why it's important to tell your story, why it's important to connect with potential donors, and to not be shy
Hmm.
about sharing about the work that you are doing. I hope you all will join us tomorrow because I will have an expert in nonprofit bookkeeping, and it's right around tax time. So, this is a conversation I'm sure y'all don't want to miss out on. So, please join me back here, same channel, same time tomorrow. Lisa, thank you again for joining me for
Yeah.
this conversation. If you all want to reach out to Lisa, please do.
Connect
Again,
with
she's
me.
at Vivid Visual Solutions. So, please connect with her.
You know what? Connect with me on LinkedIn because I'm actually doing some free lives that are talking about storytelling as well. And I'm doing it live on LinkedIn. There's one coming up Wednesday. So connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be the best.
Yes, look
Lisa,
for her, find her.
look for me. Find me. Find me.
All right. Well, thank you again, Lisa, and thank you all for joining. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.